say? 50%. That's
So thirsty.
That is good. Right.
So really. Kakak,
Yes, adik.
is it true the water that we drink need to be processed?
Yes, adik. Do you want to know the history about how water is processed?
Of course, Kakak.
Okay, let's see.
Ah, nature. So beautiful and calm.
Splash, did you know that the reservoirs like this are one of the places that we get our drinking water?
Wait a minute there. You don't want to drink this stuff. I'm telling you, I've been in a lot of water, including this reservoir. You know what's in there? Fish. You know what they do, right? They
Ah, Splash, don't even go there, okay? You know, a lot happens to the water before we can drink it.
You're telling me? Hey, I've been cleaned up a few times.
Hey, Splash, let's hear the history about how we have been cleaned up.
Back to the 2000 BC, people knew that heating method can purify the water, and they were also well educated in sand and gravel filtration, boiling, and straining. The major motive for water purification was better taste drinking water, because on that time, people could not yet distinguish between full and clean water. After 1500 BC, the Egyptians first discovered the principle of coagulation. They applied the chemical alum for suspended particle sentiment. After 500 BC, Hippocrates discovered the healing powers of water. He invented the practice of saving water and obtained the first bag filter, which was called the Hippocratic sieve. The main purpose of the bag was to trap the sediment that caused bad taste or odor. In 300 until 200 BC, Rome built its first aqueduct. Archimedes invented his water screw. They were applied specifically to supply water to the big cities and industrial area of the Roman Empire. Archimedes' screw is a large screw inside a hollow pipe that pumps up water to higher land. Then, in year of 1627, Sir Francis Bacon started experimenting with seawater desalination. Then, in year of 1676, Van Leeuwenhoek was observed water microorganism. In the year of 1854, the cholera epidemic spread through water is discovered. British scientist John Snow found that the direct cause of the outbreak was water pump contamination by the sewage water. He applied chlorine to purify the water, and this paved the way for water disinfection. But after some time, the negative effects from the invention of chlorination were discovered. Chlorine vaporized much faster than water. The experts started looking for alternative water disinfectant. So, they found out that calcium hypochlorite and ferric chloride were mixed in the drinking water supply in Belgium, resulting in both coagulation and disinfection. Eventually, starting from the year of 1914, drinking water standards were implemented for drinking water supply in public traffic based on the coliform growth. In the year of 1972, the Clean Water Act was passed in the United States. In the year of 1974, the Safe Drinking Water Act (SDWA) was formulated. The general principle in the developed world now was that every person had the right to drink the safe drinking water.
First, large floating objects like leaves and sticks are separated with bar-rack screens so the mechanical equipment and pumps in subsequent processes are safe. Smaller microparticles are removed with finer mesh screens and gate removers. After the water passes through the screens, sediments that are more difficult to settle goes to the next stage. Next, water reaches the coagulation stage. At this stage, the water still has finite particles that cannot be visibly removed, which called colloid. To remove this colloid, a chemical coagulant is added in a series of times and mixed vigorously in a flash mixture through which the chemical is evenly distributed throughout the process. A coagulant such as aluminum sulfate or ferric sulfate binds colloids together from larger, heavier flocks. After the coagulation process, the water is transferred to the coagulation chambers The coagulation process with HSIN utilizes the smaller particles and water is gently mixed for about an hour to add the formation of larger particles called flocks. This can be easily removed when the water travels to the sedimentation chamber. Next, at the sedimentation process, it is primarily aimed at preparing the water for subsequent filtration. At this point, water allows the flocks to pass into the sedimentation tank. Here, the flocks have time to settle and come together to form sludge, which is heavy enough to sink, allowing cleaner water to pass into the next stage. The sludge is collected and disposed. After this process, only a few unsettled particles are left, which could be filtered in the next stage. Then, water now needs to be filtered slowly through fine sand-like material, which could be placed in separate layers to get rid of any remaining leaf of particles. These particles could be a mixture of substandard organic and inorganic particles such as fine silt and clays or bacteria and seeds. Filtration is made from single-cell media or monomedia or dual media with sand and the addition of atrazine, a type of cool or granular active carbon (GAC). Last but not least, the treated water must be disinfected to make sure harmful pathogens are killed. The water must travel a long way to end users, thus to ensure it is pathogen safe. Until then, a certain amount of chlorine is added. Lastly, the pH levels are controlled to make it as relatively neutral as possible, and fluoride is added. Water is stored in storage tanks and ready for use.
By using a coagulation and flocculation tank, it has 3 disadvantages as well as 3 advantages. So, now let me introduce you to the advantages. First, by using a coagulation and flocculation tank, it helps decrease the overall detention time. Second, the chemical coagulant used, which is aluminium sulfate, actually aids the settling of finer particles and smaller mineral particles. Third, this flocculation and coagulation process is actually fast and requires no extensive proceedings. However, there are also disadvantages using the coagulation and flocculation tanks, which is it requires extensive jar testing so that to make sure the chemicals used, such as aluminium sulfate, is at the correct dosage, which it does not harm the human as well as the environment. Secondly, the dosage of the chemicals used must also be adjusted accordingly to varying composition of the water source. Third, the sludge produced requires a very high disposal cost because it must be treated before it is disposed. While at the disinfectant tanks, there are also 3 advantages and 3 disadvantages. Let me introduce you to the advantages. Firstly, by using chemical disinfectant tanks, it is effective yet simple. Second, by using chemical disinfectants such as chlorine and chloramines, it is very accurate and we can predict the outcome of the water cleanliness. Third, this process, which is using chemical disinfectants, is cheap and also effective. Last but not least, by using chemical disinfectants such as chlorine in water purification system can cause many disadvantages. First, it can affect the general taste and odor of the water. Second, it can also produce DDP, which is disinfection byproducts, for example, trihalomethane, chlorophenols, and also chlorine hydrates. Some of these particles are actually carcinogenic and can cause cancer. Lastly, chlorine, which is the chemical disinfectant, can be volatile, which leads to sometimes lack of dosage and sometimes too high dosage, which can lead to health impact to human as well as the environment.
In conclusion, water treatment is important in modern life due to the lack of natural fresh water and increase in population. This treatment is crucial to human health and all the water treatment process needed to be done to make it drinkable, use of the industrial process, medical, and many other uses. Basically, The goal of all water treatment process is to remove existing contaminant in the water and reduce concentration of such contaminant so that the water is very safe to be used by the consumer. So that's all for